In 1918, World War I ended. With the end of the war came a short-lived celebration of victory. However, chaos and severe recession soon followed. Factories laid off workers, jobs became scarce, people rushed to buy goods that had been rationed during the war, resulting in inflation, and the cost of living greatly increased, including the prices of food, clothing, and shelter. In addition to the troubled economy, an influenza epidemic broke out all over the world and affected many people in the United States. The Spanish flu lasted for 2 years and killed almost 700,000 Americans. Lastly, when the Bolsheviks took over the government in Russia, many Americans felt betrayed and regarded the communists as treacherous. This fear of communism fueled the Red Scare and the Palmer Raids, in which many people were detained and deported because they were accused of organizing or supporting a communist revolution. As a result, Americans turned towards lighthearted entertainment to escape from the constant reminders of war. In addition, many Americans were receiving higher wages and had shorter workdays, enabling them to spend more time and money on entertainment. Thus began the rise of the radio and movie industries.
In 1895, an Italian engineer, Guglielmo Marconi, was able to create the first radio and was also the first to demonstrate wireless radio communication over increasing distances. 18 years later, in 1913, an American engineer, Edwin Armstrong, invented a circuit that enabled him to transmit sound through a radio over long distances. However, the radio industry did not take off until the 1920s, when consumerism increased and radio prices were lowered. In addition, the radio industry grew when the KDKA radio station in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, broadcast the results of the presidential election and captured many listeners and supporters. Soon, many new radio stations and companies were established all over the United States, including the National Broadcasting Company, NBC, and the Columbia Broadcasting System, CBS, who began broadcasting news and events that Americans cared about, such as sports events, political speeches, musical concerts, and performances. With this sudden boom in popularity, radio stations began to offer more diversity in entertainment by playing live music, comedy shows, and sports shows on their stations. However, because so many Americans were listening to radios, many companies found new opportunities to promote their products. Thus, radio commercials were born, and organizations, stores, and political parties advertised their merchandise or promoted their point of view. As a whole, the radio industry transformed the lives of Americans because it connected them by informing them about nationwide events and news, provided them with the latest trends in the nation, and allowing them to listen to and follow dramas and comedies, such as The Happiness Boys with Billy Jones and Ernie Hare.
Much like that of the radio industry, the movie industry grew tremendously as a result of World War I. In the 1920s, Americans were desperate to escape the aftermath of the war and rushed to movie theaters to watch westerns and romance movies. In 1878, when Edward Muybridge successfully created a small movie of a horse running, the movie industry was born. Before the 1920s, many movies had experienced success, such as D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. Although many early movies were very popular and made large profits, the identities of many actors were kept from the public and they were paid adequately, disabling them from becoming even more famous and successful. However, because of the surge in moviegoers and the increased interest in dramatic and glamorized movies, some people were afraid that movies would negatively impact Americans by decreasing church attendance and increasing materialism, martial tensions, and immortality. As the popularity of movies skyrocketed, many Americans idolized their favorite actors and followed the events of their personal lives. For example, fans followed the wedding of actress Mary Pickford and actor Douglas Fairbanks in 1920 and attended the funeral and mourned the death of actor Rudolph Valentino. In the early 1920s, movies had no sound. Subtitles explained the plot to the audience, and musicians and orchestras provided music and sound effects during the movie. However, in 1927, The Jazz Singer was produced by the Warner Brothers. It was the very first talking movie, using a device called the Vitaphone, which recorded sound and played it back during the movie. Americans were mesmerized and flocked to movie theaters to see The Jazz Singer because it was the first talkie, a movie with sound. Because the film was so successful and popular with the American public, other film companies and studios also began producing talkies and abandoned the once popular silent films. As a result, silent films began to die out and disappeared altogether, signifying the end of an old era and the start of the new one in the movie industry.
Because of increased wages and leisure time, Americans turned towards entertainment to dodge the long-term effects of World War I. As a result, the radio and movie industries exploded in popularity, beginning a new era of entertainment. However, these industries had a deeper meaning. They unified and connected the nation.